continuing our session of conferences with experts from different countries. Today we have the respected Professor Susana Mangana, representing Spain, who has joined us. Hello, Professor. Thank you for
Hello.
finding time and sharing your precious expertise with us. We already had a chance to discuss the foreign policy of Uruguay with Professor Ramiro Rodriguez, as well as engaging in
Hello.
discussion about Pakistan, India, and Iran with other experts. We're so happy to have you, and we look forward to learning more about Spain. So, if you're ready, let's start with the questions.
Okay.
Uh, our first question is: how is Spain contributing to the European Union's foreign policy, and what are its priorities within the European Union?
Okay, I would say that Spain is a very active country within the European Union. Actually, currently, it holds the temporary presidency of the European Union. So it's a country that it's profoundly European, and it has always been so since its first admission into the European Union. I mean, the date goes back to 85, but officially we entered the European Union in 1986. So I think this is something that most citizens will agree that, I mean, we are still positive about the results of this union and of our pertaining or our belonging to that European Union as active Spanish citizens, but also European citizens. That is to say, it's not a situation like in other countries, say the United Kingdom, where a large percentage or significant percentage of the population were rejecting the European proposals. That's not the case with Spain. So I think Spain in general, not only the government but also its citizens, we all reckon, or we all view the European Union as something positive for our economy, for our diplomatic efforts towards other international spheres and forums. So I think Spain has always engaged in all the agreements, whether it's Maastricht or Schengen, or when we had to adopt the currency, the common currency, the euro. So I think I would say that key priorities for Spain include promoting a united stand, a united EU front on global issues, strengthening also regional security, and advancing economic cooperation, especially with countries that presumably want to adhere or want to join the European Union. I mean, we've had several opportunities for the entry of new countries such as Croatia or Poland or other countries that came along later after Spain entered the European Union. So I will say that Spain is profoundly committed to that European Union, and of course, currently, I think the EU is very much immersed or involved in the Russian-Ukrainian war. So I think that is the main issue now within the European Union, together with other topics that we'll discuss now in a few minutes, such as the migration policies and asylum seeker policies within the European Union. But basically, I will say that Spain always follows suit with the decisions taken in Brussels at the Parliament, European Parliament, but also the European Commission. And we've had several key figures within the European structure, such as Josep Borrell, who is the current foreign policy or security and foreign policy manager for the European Union. So I mean, and we had other key figures in the past as well, such as Javier Solana, etc. So not to bore you with difficult names that you can always Google later. I think I would say that we contribute towards the economy, but also the stabilizing the European Union. And I think right now we are going through a process where we feel there is like a little of division, you know, countries that don't always want to follow those Brussels policies. Maybe Ramiro has a different comment to make, but for example, countries like Poland or Hungary not always follow suit with France, with Germany, with Spain. So of course now we don't have the we don't have the United Kingdom with us in the European Union forum, but I think it is still a very important country that we have to continue working with it. And I think Spain has always had a very proactive stand towards the European Union, the European Union, but also the United Kingdom when they were discussing the Brexit, and always, always advancing a pragmatic stand towards the conflicts within the European Union, but also when it comes to the foreign policy of the European Union towards other countries in Africa, in the Middle East, etc. I'm not going into that aspect now because you have questions about Spain's foreign policy towards the Middle East and also the Mediterranean process, etc. But I mean, that would be a summary. I think key priorities still continue to be the economy, maintaining a cohesive European Union so that we can still benefit from those common investment projects, but also if we need to borrow money, if we need advice from the central bank, from the European Union, well, Spain has always sought to maintain a good diplomatic, negotiation or possibility to negotiate any hurdles, any obstacles that come our way.
Thank you very much for your response.
It is a very simple one. So let me just go from here. Okay. Can you see it there? I think you can, right?
Yes, we can.
I mean, it's a very, very short, short answers that I'm giving you, but I mean, basically fostering a united front on global issues also. Of course, now, as I said, I think the main worries within the European Union are the Ukraine-Russia war, but also calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, and also working towards, the entry or how other countries that have requested entry to the European Union can really do so in a proper fashion, proper manner, in the shorter time possible. That's countries like Ukraine, for example, or Moldavia. Those are the second or the next two countries that want to join the European Union. And also, I would say that we're still having a lot of discussions and problems dealing with the migration policies within the European Union. That's where you can see that there is no one single stand, but countries have a divisive opinion about these policies. Countries, as I said before, Hungary especially, but also Italy. I mean, countries where there is the conservative, whenever there is a conservative or right-wing, without even calling it extreme right-wing party, that's when you're going to have the different opinions when it comes to asylum seeker policies, but also migration policies in the European Union.
Okay, thank you very much. And the other question is, what is Spain's current stance on relations with countries in Latin America, and how is it engaging with the region politically and economically?
The national telecommunications or telephone and mobile company, Repsol, which is mainly a petrol and gas exploration company. And of course, I would say that there are different areas where Spain is also signing cooperation agreements with countries in Central America. I mean, this depends on the income of the Latin American countries. More developed countries or with a different level of sophisticated and technology stand, for example, countries like Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Uruguay have a different bilateral relationship with Spain, not so much oriented towards the cooperation agreement, but trade agreements. When you go up north towards Central American countries such as Nicaragua, Guatemala, or El Salvador, you're going to find that this bilateral relationship between Spain and those countries is mainly based on cooperation agreements, agreements that have to do with investing money in development, key development areas such as education or promoting police and judge skills, for example, right? Basically qualifications in those countries. But I mean, if we are going to talk about political and diplomatic ties, I would say Spain tries to maintain a strong relationship with all countries. Of course, from time to time, there are tensions that arise, for example, with Cuba or with Venezuela, countries that lack democratic processes. Of course, there are tensions there. But with all Latin American countries, and that includes Brazil as well, Spain, and different governments in Spain, as I said, regardless of their political orientation, are going to maintain a very good and strong relationship.
Yes, I also
Maybe
Yeah.
I would like to add on this issue that, well, Latin America is the natural projection area or projection backyard. I don't know, this expression is very very accurate, but this is the natural area of projection of Spain foreign policy within the European Union. You know that most part of Latin America, of our continent, has been part of the Spanish Empire. So there are strong bonds regarding, well, Susana has just said about the most part of our population. The migration fluxes come from Spain, and just to link this question number 2 with the previous one regarding the EU Mercosur Association Agreement, which its kickoff dates back to the mid-90s. Reflects the differences, or in a way that how democratic either the European Union and Mercosur blocs are, because the difference, or better to say, we haven't reached the final line regarding this agreement. It is due to different point of view or different stances between the European members regarding how protectionist or towards Latin America, towards Mercosur. So when Susana referred to the different positions regarding issues like the migration one within the European Union, talking about Hungary, talking about even Italy, there are some differences, you know, about the most protectionist countries in Europe, such as France, especially with very strong agricultural lobbies and population. This impedes from reaching a final agreement with Mercosur, which, you know, is a bloc. We have 4 members, mostly specialized on primary products or in primary exports. So this is a very important issue for us, for Mercosur countries. You know, we have more than 20 years, you know, talking about this issue, which still unsolved.
Yeah, I wanted to just add up on that. I think it has been a very lengthy ratification process between the Mercosur countries and the European Union. Of course, this doesn't only involve Spain, as Ramiro was saying, and that was going to be my next comment. Spain has always been like the corridor or the bridge between the European countries and the Latin American region, right? Of course, because it is playing with its competitive advantage. I mean, historical, cultural ties help Spain to be positioned in a different situation. I mean, they talk from a different stand altogether, not just because of the language, but because of that common and shared past they have. But I think there are some obstacles that we cannot forget. I mean, and I'm just going to mention some of them. There are agricultural issues there, like most farmers, or at least Brussels expresses that farmers in the European Union worry about the impact of the agreement between the Mercosur countries and the European ones, because it has a direct impact on their livelihood, and they're afraid of cheaper agricultural imports from the Mercosur region. That is one of the main obstacles for the ratification process, right? But also we have consumer and health concerns, whether these are just mere obstacles or administrative obstacles in order to delay the signing of the contract, of the agreement. We will have to go into the details, but I mean, there are some food safety standards, for example, critiques of that Mercosur agreement with the European Union. They have concerns about differences in food safety and quality standards between the European Union and the Mercosur countries, right? There are fears in the European Union that the agreement might lead to the import of products that don't meet the EU standards. As you know, there are a lot of quality issues there, but sometimes, not as a Spaniard, but as someone that lived in Uruguay long enough and in Latin America, I feel this is just an excuse on the side of the European Union. I don't know what you say, Ramiro, about that. The same as when they say human rights and social standards. Well, there is a little bit of hypocritical, or I will say there is a double standards measure there. Sometimes they have this long list of obstacles, but I think sometimes they just use them to the advantage of the European Union, rather than taking into account that countries such as Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil are fully democratic right now, okay? I mean, maybe we have some concerns, and they're valid enough, about Venezuela, but I think even Paraguay nowadays, I mean, there is no issue about violation of human rights in the country. So I think these are mere obstacles for delaying this ratification process between the Mercosur and the EU. Oh, I don't know what Ramiro thinks about that.
Yeah, I agree with Susana, with Professor Mangana. The core of the that blocks the final agreement is the agricultural one, the protectionism lobby from the EU, from some EU countries that blocks especially, we're talking about democratic government, so it's either presidents or prime ministers in the different European countries just how to say, they owe the good governance to their internal lobby. So even when they have, or they show the intention to go ahead with the agreement, internally there are very strong lobbies, very strong groups, like farmers in France, for instance, that they block the streets or go on with strikes and so on, and it's a very important and strong sector, because they fear, as Susana said, that more cheaper products from Latin America would flood supermarkets and markets within Europe, impacting negatively within the agricultural sector, as a sector which is strongly linked with the livelihood and the rural areas and all the comfort zones, or the comfort sort of welfare state that most countries or most European countries provide to them. So it's a very complex situation, and of course there are around this issue there are a lot of excuses or pretext to go ahead with the agreement, such as human rights violations, or even the environmental issue with Brazil and the Amazonia,
deforestation,
and so on. Deforestation
and
all this,
sustainability.
But it's on the other side, in Latin America, we are democratic countries as well, and the different governments with a different ideological position or stances also shows that they are more keen or eager to go ahead or not. Also responding to internal lobbies, the sort of difference between the agricultural vis-a-vis the industrial lobbies within strong countries like Brazil, for instance, and depending on how of these lobbies is stronger in certain period of time, is the velocity or the speed to that the government puts to the agreement. So it's a very complex situation, and frankly speaking, I don't know if we'll see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and I also feel that because the European Union now is so tightly involved in the Ukrainian-Russian war, and because they're supporting Ukraine in this process, and they have other countries knocking at the European Union's door, such as Moldavia, such as Ukraine, and others that want to follow suit, I think that the European Union is not so much thinking of expanding or working towards the signing of this agreement and ratification of that agreement with the Mercosur region. And it's sad because Spain has the possibility, I think, to defend the Latin American countries' point of view much harder. I will feel that. And I mean, at least as a Spaniard, and I think that's a historical duty